Feeling the pressure of meeting your nonprofit's fundraising goals? You're not alone. Many nonprofits struggle with limited resources, donor fatigue, and a lack of clear strategy. Nonprofit 411 offers personalized coaching to address these challenges head on. Together, we'll tackle your biggest obstacles, boost your donor relationships, and build momentum toward your mission. Don't let obstacles slow you down. Start your coaching journey today at nonprofit411.org. Welcome to the Nonprofit 411 Podcast, the podcast where we speak with nonprofit professionals and experts to uncover strategies, share insights, and tackle the challenges you face in fundraising and sustainability. I'm Sarah Barton, your fundraising growth partner and the founder of Nonprofit 411. My mission is to help you develop tailored strategies and support you as you implement them, ensuring your nonprofit thrives. Let's dive into today's episode and learn from the experiences and expertise of those who have been in your shoes. Hello, and welcome to the Nonprofit 411. I'm so excited that you joined us today, and I am so excited to welcome our guest, Anne Murphy, from CEO and founder of Empowered Fundraiser Consulting and founder of She Leads AI. Welcome.
Thanks, Sarah. It's a delight to be here.
I'm so excited to have a conversation with you today. But before we get started, I always start with my favorite question, which is, what is your favorite hobby?
My favorite hobby is backcountry backpacking. If everything goes to plan, I would be either solo or with my daughter. I have reared her to be able to carry heavier bags than I can. So she's very handy to have on a backpacking trip. But yeah, that's my happy place is backcountry backpacking.
Oh, how fun. That's so exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, awesome. I've never done that. So it'll be something. Yeah, maybe it's something I should think about.
I think you should.
Yeah. I'll have to recruit my son, who is he can carry more than me for sure.
Yeah, you got to have you need the next generation to carry all the heavy things.
They carry the water, you carry the empty bottles, right?
Yep. That's literally exactly what happens with my daughter. She carries the water, I carry the bottles.
That's so funny. So
Wonderful.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and about the organizations that you work with?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much again, Sarah, for having me. I'm excited. I love your podcast. I, like lots of people, I found my way into fundraising kind of weirdly. I was an intern. I needed money. There was literally a sign on the door that said, we have an development intern. I didn't know what development was. I thought it was like natural resources, had no idea. So I got my start in fundraising there in higher education and had a fabulous career, did all the things, ran campaigns and got to work with all sorts of amazing faculty and start scholarships and do buildings and run large teams and just very, very stimulating, interesting career. But I got to a point, like lots of us did around COVID, where I started to wonder, what do I really, really want to do when I grow up? And I started to feel like I could do more if I were out on my own, because I wanted to work with a variety of different causes, right? Like I believe in higher ed, absolutely, particularly. I've always worked in STEM fields. There's no question that is critically important and that I'm making an impact in the world. But I felt like there were other pockets where the fact that I always think of myself as kind of born on third base. I have all of these unearned privileges. I've had people pour into me. I've been able to go to conferences. I've had mentors. I've had great jobs. I've had a career where I've been paid to hone my craft over the course of 30 years. Now I can give back. So I knew that if I launched my own consultancy, I could work in spaces where some of the larger firms it might not make sense for them to be there, just budget wise. I could work in those spaces. I could deliver incredibly helpful, coaching and consulting. And I would also be able to do it for a breadth of different causes, which was appealing to me as well. So my first two clients were art centers. It's wonderful. I went from spending every waking moment with engineers to having, being able to do some really neat work with a couple of art centers. So that kind of brings us up to about right now. The next phase that I would share of the evolution is that I really caught the AI bug when it first came out. Well, when generative AI hit the scene with gusto, and that was late 2022. And like fundraising, sometimes you have like an interesting path that first spark with AI. And for me, it was that I was at the outset of a very difficult 18-month long bout with long COVID. And it was at the same time as I was no longer an employee because I had great idea that I was going to be an entrepreneur, had no idea how to be an entrepreneur. So I'm trying to launch a business. I was sleeping all the time, had no energy, like my brain was scrambled eggs. And then ChatGPT hit the scene and it gave me my thinking ability back. It allowed me to string two ideas together and to get them like out of my brain in a sentence format, which I wasn't able to do. So that kind of leads me to where we are today with the AI piece.
Awesome. Well, what an interesting journey. I have also worked in higher ed, so we have that in common. And something you said really resonated with me, and it's kind of part of my journey also, is that as a fundraiser, we do learn skills that every nonprofit needs, but not every nonprofit is privileged to have. And I also started my business, Nonprofit411, because I want to help all nonprofits be sustainable. And it is always amazing to me that sometimes what I might consider the simplest of changes, but they're unknown changes until they're introduced, can make such a huge impact on a nonprofit.
Absolutely. And I mean, to all the fundraisers out there listening, know that your skill set is vast. You are capable of so much more than you know. It's remarkable to me. I immediately signed up for a million different coaching programs upon becoming an entrepreneur. And I was amazed by how my skill set stood up to other people in the courses and the programs, because there are things that we do as fundraisers that other people consider very difficult to achieve skill sets. And we just do them as a matter of course. Outreach,
Yeah.
cold outreach. Did you guys know that most people do not know how to reach out to leads? They don't know how to do it. All of my coaching programs, the majority of the time, was how to reach out to leads. And I was sitting there going like, how do you guys do your work without picking up the phone?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because so when I worked at the university, I did not do major gifts and I didn't do planned giving, which those two tend to have a lot more telephone component and more meeting component. And so those are skills that I have to practice. Now, I definitely have more experience doing it because when I was in development, I actually became director of advancement. Under advancement, I had both admissions and development.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, so it was a very large team, and admissions is entirely interacting with individuals, right? And you have to be talking to them, texting them, emailing them, whatever it is, however they prefer to communicate. You do that all the time. And yeah. And in development, I personally was in charge of all of our direct mails, our alumni. And so a lot of in the email campaigns, more direct mail campaigns, email was less of a thing at that time, but it is true. You really do learn like how do I talk to these people, and you don't have to be afraid of them because they really do become friends in some ways, companions, supporters. That you find out they're your cheerleaders. They're excited for everything that you're doing too. So yeah. So thank you for that affirmation for all of our fundraisers out there, because it is a very unique path. And for the nonprofit leaders who are listening that are not fundraisers, let it be an encouragement that there are people who can help you with these skills. They're actually just things that you learn and practice, right?
Yes, yeah, they are. And we're out here, and it can be the case that even just, you know, sitting down with somebody who's out here doing like what you do or I do for half an hour or an hour to figure out what are some of your gaps and what kind of support do you really need before going out. And this is just like a little bit of a sidebar, but for folks to think about before going out and putting an RFP out into the world or posting a job for a development officer, your money would go was is well spent um doing like one or two sessions with a consultant before you do that so that they can help set you up for success, whether it's what you're actually looking for with your RFP, or do you actually have a good setup to bring your first, major gift officer or direct mail professional or whatever on board, because you may not be set up for success. So if anyone's
Yes.
listening.
Yes, I think that's so true. A lot of times where the organizations that I work with start is actually creating those systems, right? Putting in systems so that we can segment our populations or that we can collect our population's information in a way that's meaningful. I was
Yes.
just working with a client today, and over the last couple of months, we got them onto a donor platform, and it's been so fun to watch everyone on their staff as they come in. I work with them to learn about the donor platform. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. This is going to help us so much, you know, but now they really are positioned to be able to really extend their reach. And before they felt constrained. And so it's so much fun. That's what I love about the work that I do, to see
Yes.
organizations blossom and find out like, oh, wait, it doesn't have to be as heavy as we were carrying it. Like our pack doesn't have to be that heavy, right? There's ways to like lighten this pack that
Lighten
make
this
it so
pack.
much easier.
So, on that note, can I share with you a little bit about the AI stuff and share with your listeners?
Absolutely, because I think AI is such a phenomenal tool. It's a phenomenal tool that has come into the world.
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation with someone the other day and they said, oh, yeah, but that was before we had AI, Sarah. And I was like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
AI really has changed a lot of things. So, yeah, help us to know about kind of how your AI journey has evolved and where it's
Yeah.
taken you.
Kind of extending the backpacking metaphor with AI, I would think about it like, yes, the use of AI is going to lighten your backpack, but there's another thing that it's going to do that's really kind of under the radar. It's something that people don't talk about a lot, but it's really important for nonprofit staff and advocates to think about, which is there are times when we can use AI for a project that historically may drain us or or bring conflict, unnecessary conflict, or where it just takes us too long to do it. We know that we quote unquote should be able to do it faster, or if we didn't have desk brain, it would be done faster, or something that's emotionally laden. So I'll give you an example of the emotionally laden, and then I'll go back and tell you how I arrived here. But one of the things that's always been challenging for me is writing condolence letters. And for me, I could not give myself permission to write a condolence letter that was like based on the last one I wrote. Maybe there was a little bit of something, but more often than not, I was writing something that was unique to that person. I would put myself in a space of, having a conversation with them, typically talking to a widow, right? Having a conversation with them. I'd be reflecting on their loved one. I'd be reflecting on their family values. I'm trying to put it in exactly the right words because someone's grieving. You don't want to send something that has, a word that, doesn't feel right. Well, now 90 minutes has gone by and I may or may not actually have the condolence letter written. And I am emotionally drained, right? I've now worked on something that in reality could have taken me 20 minutes, worked on it for an hour and a half, and I've used some of my best energy of the day. So when I started developing tools with AI, the second thing I made was a thank you letter generator that also works for condolence notes. And it's beautiful. Like, it's trained on my voice. It brings in Maya Angelou quotes if you want. Like, it's lovely and it very rarely fails. And even if it does, it just means I need to change a couple of words. And in that example now, I'm inputting the special things about the loved one. It's not as though I'm not reflecting or fully participating in this process. It's just that I'm not also wordsmithing it within an inch of its life. I'm putting my effort into what was special about that individual, not into, where every single comma is and stuff. So
Yes. Yeah.
examples, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that example. I think that, that is often where organizations, or not a professional, not the
Uh-huh.
organizations, but where professionals get stuck, right? When we
Yeah.
are only kind of sure, when we're kind of sure
Yes.
on what we need to do, but not really sure on what we need to do. And it's where the burnout stems, right? The burnout does
Yeah.
stem from those moments.
Yeah, it's where the burnout sits. And then, like, say I worked on that condolence note for 90 minutes and then I sent it on to the person whose signature it was supposed to go out under, and they said, I don't like it. Well, if you've only spent like 10 minutes on it, your feelings aren't that hurt, not compared to when you spent 90 minutes on it. So, how, the way that I got here to really being an AI optimist, and I do want to point out, it's not that my enthusiasm for AI is abject. I lose just as much sleep as the next person. I, worry about the parade of horribles, worry about the robots taking over, worry about our economy, people's employment, worry about all the things. But I also am heartened by the opportunity for AI to level the proverbial playing field. I see AI as an opportunity to put power and proximity to power into the hands of people who historically have not been in those roles or in those spaces. And what's particularly awesome about it is that one thing that's true is people in leadership, C-suite and up, are uniquely unqualified to make decisions about how AI is implemented in their organizations, because the people who are using it are the front lines people. They're the interns, they're the admins, they're the major gift officers, the direct mail writers. Like, the people doing the work are the ones who are farther along in their AI journey. Typically, leadership folks need to be informed what's happening. So now, those of us who've been out there on the front lines, we have this additional layer of authority and responsibility and clout, because we're here to tell the bosses, if you do that, the outcome is going to be this, right? If you do that other thing, the outcome is going to be this. So now we can start making the policies that we're affected by. We have to, in fact. So that's where I'm like super, super bullish on AI, is that I think it can turn the power imbalance back to where it should be a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Balance. I think that's great. Something that you just said right there, I was actually conducting an HR training a couple of weeks ago. I have been a director of HR and have my certification in HR, have a certification in HR. And can you hear me now?
Yep.
I moved my mic, everyone. So you can hear me for a second. I don't know what I was thinking. I was standing up and I forgot to move my mic. I was saying I conducted an HR seminar a couple weeks ago, and I said something about policy. And what I said about AI policy is that you need to be ahead of that because people are using it whether or not you think they are. And if you put restrictions and say it can't be used in our organization, they're using it some other way in your organization. Like that's the
Period.
reality, right? They're either using it on
Period.
their phone or they're working around your workaround, whatever it is,
Yeah.
people are going to be using AI. And so you need to really quickly, like yesterday,
Like yesterday. Yep.
started the conversation about AI and how do we as an organization use AI and when do we use AI and when do we use some old fashioned techniques, which the old fashioned techniques brings me back to this year. I've been really focused on making phone calls,
Mhm.
going back to an old fashioned technique, which is a very effective tool. A
Yeah.
phone call is a very effective tool. So if we utilize AI and we replace very effective tools with AI, perhaps unintentionally, but we may have or experience some significant impact, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yes.
so, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important to have these conversations. There are some tools in our tool bag that we have to keep. And
Yep.
there are
Yep.
some tools that we may be able to adapt with AI.
Yes. Yeah, I think everything now should be seen on a continuum of 100% human to 100% AI. And many, many, many of the things that we do are going to be a mixture. And it's really fine tuning what is the best fit for each task. An example would be it'd be very easy to say, absolutely, an in-person visit with a donor is something that is like, for example, like you said, a phone call is a tool. That is one of the tools in our toolkit is meeting in person with a donor. And we know how magical it can be and how effective it is on the know, like, and trust continuum and people give to people and all of those kind of things. And there's an element of, showing respect and meeting the people where they are proverbially and literally. That said, we learned in COVID, it's not absolutely necessary in all cases for us to be in person with our donors. In fact, now we're learning some donors would prefer to have a Zoom call with us. The next phase of this, so you're starting to think, okay, we went from it's got to be in person, period, to maybe it doesn't have to be in person. Maybe it's more effective because we can get both members of the couple on Zoom, where we're not going to get two members of the couple, in one meeting, one physical location. So there could be some benefits. And then we fast forward to if we think about what are some of the challenges that we have with in-person meeting with donors? Well, we have the fact that is it like 86% or 68? I get my numbers mixed up. Either 86 or 68% of fundraisers have been sexually harassed by a donor or by a colleague. Okay, so now let's talk about risk management. How can we manage that risk? We could say we're not sending fundraisers out to meet people anymore. That seems harsh. But maybe in this case, this is when we have donors who are preferring to not leave their house to go talk about philanthropy. We have people who are AI forward and who understand the benefit of working with avatars, which is something that our field is having a hard time adjusting to. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is spending a lot of time interfacing with AI avatars. So now it's like, maybe we should be moving into in our organization using AI avatars because A, our donors prefer it, and B, it's safer from a risk management perspective than sending somebody out to somebody's living room. It's a
Yeah,
continuum.
maybe. It is. It's a continuum. Yeah. And maybe our, maybe our continuum is that like we never send someone out alone, right? So like that limits their time. But we also do all these other two things too, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
So it gives us the chance to break what's already broken. Should we have been sending development officers out to people's homes in the middle of nowhere all by themselves? Should we have been doing that since the beginning? Maybe, maybe not. I would argue that I did it, of course, and I supervised people who did it. But right now, at my big age of 51, I would not say that it's a good idea to do that. I wouldn't
yeah.
send my kids
Well,
out to someone.
yeah. In education, right? We tag team. You should always have two people with kids, right? You should always.
Mhm.
I was a 2-year-old teacher, so you always had to have two people present. And
Oh.
yeah, so it's a safety mechanism to make
Yep.
sure that the children are safe and to make sure that the adults are safe, right?
Right.
So both. um, so yeah, I think that's such a great thought, right? And in the nonprofit sector, sometimes the response to AI has been to really not talk about it. So we're
Yeah.
still using it. We're still playing with it. We may be using it on the fly. We may be using it openly.
Yeah.
It really is like that. Like sometimes you're like, well, I can talk about me using AI with that person and I can with this person.
Yeah.
But because we're choosing to react in that way, we're actually hurting the sector as a whole because we need to be having these deeper conversations about ethical use of AI and about how we utilize it as a tool to enhance
Mhm.
our mission and our vision and our work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I hear that that's some of what you're saying. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And also, something to consider is that we do so much interfacing with people who are in the for profit sector who are currently going through the painful process of integrating AI into their culture and their systems. Those folks, some of whom are our best donors or our board chairs, those folks are having the lived experience right now that's not comfortable. And they will know beyond a shadow of a doubt how important it is to integrate AI and that you can't have a well-functioning organization without it now. And they will be expecting the nonprofits they support. It'd be like saying, no, we're not going to use email, but an even bigger deal, right? If you were a donor and you found out that somebody didn't use spreadsheets or email or whatever, or a shared drive, or,
yeah,
you feel
that's
like
right.
that you might not keep them in your category of nonprofits you support because you could support another organization that does something similar that also has rock solid business operations. So there's going to be some extreme pressure. And I would like to see those of us who are kind of on the sidelines or where there's not a lot of psychological safety to talk about AI in your organization. I would like to see us bust through those issues so that we can be ahead of the game, at least alongside our constituents who are going through this, so that we don't ever have the awkward moment where we haven't done anything with AI in our policies and a donor or a board member is saying to us, or an accreditation body, right, is saying, where's your AI policies? And you're like, what AI policies?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, as you say that, what came to mind, the word that came to mind is you are not an early adopter. This is not an early adoption opportunity
Yeah.
because AI has sped up the timeline of adoption
Yeah.
so much on all fronts, right?
All
And
fronts.
the nonprofit sector has typically been a late adopter. And I try to be super respectful of that recognition that,
Yeah.
some of us are early adopters, some of us are mainstream adopters, and some of us are late adopters. And we each have reason for that in our positions, whichever that position is. And acknowledging that fully, that is, the way that we address things. The truth is that adopting policies related to AI now is no longer early adoption. It's no longer mainstream. Stream. I would say mainstream is really in that full phase right now, right?
Yeah.
And so late adoption becomes like in a few months, right? Because
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
the timeline
Yeah.
has been sped up so quickly.
Yes. Like for me, the stepping stones are first, you got to get your first 10 hours under your belt. Just use free ChatGPT, dink around on it, play, don't worry about anything. Just create. Have fun. Spend 10 hours doing that. Have it evaluate an email that you've written. Have it write an email. Don't even sweat it. Then you go to the next phases, which is, you're starting to learn how to use the tool more adeptly. So you're learning how to write good prompts, which all that means is phrase things in a way that makes it easier for the large language model to parse all of the data that it has to parse to give you the output that you're actually looking for. So you're still using the tool at that phase. Once you're doing that, maybe let's say you're using AI a couple of times a day, every day, then you're able to start scaling your skills. So now you're using it with stuff you really don't know how to do. You're like, hey, I do not know anything about how to plan a backyard barbecue, right? Use it for your own life. I don't, versus a party at a roller skating rink, which I would know how to do, right? Start trying to do things with it that you don't know how to do. So now you're not just in your zone of genius where you're trying to level up a little bit, stuff you don't know how to do, stuff you thought you were already at the very top of your game, and getting that little extra margin where you're like, wow, now I'm doing the best work of my life. And then the fourth stage is where you are not even using it as a tool anymore. You are in a symbiotic relationship with AI. It is part of every single thing you do. You wouldn't get out of bed in the morning without it. Now, that takes some doing, right? It just takes time and reps, but that's the direction, because this is where you need to be. The symbiotic place is where you need to be in order to stay relevant, in order to be able to be ready for what's coming down the pike. We got to start now with those 10 hours. Like, just start getting them under your belt so that you're moving in the right direction, because you're going to be faced with big decisions that you won't be capable of making if you haven't been using AI. So that is my plea, is just get those first 10 hours under your belt, then start fine tuning a little bit, and then start using it for everything that you do. And then it's basically your thought partner, your colleague.
I am so grateful that you just shared that. That is definitely the journey that I've been on. And I would say I'm in stage 4, but I have never thought about helping outline that journey. Tim Lockey, when he was on my podcast a while ago, I can't remember if it was the first time or the second time, he said, one of the wonderful things about AI is that the first time you use it, it brings joy.
Yes.
And I loved that, because
Yes.
it was, I mean, gosh, it's been probably half a year ago. So it was six months ago, probably, and if a person hasn't done that yet, you're right. That first 10 hours, and
Yeah.
I got to try this out so that you can ask questions, and so that you can be curious and you can learn about how other people are using it. I love to, as you were thinking about that, I thought about, oh yeah, I've learned different things along the way when I've been using AI. One of the things I was telling someone yesterday, I was like, I stink at figuring out transition sentences when I'm doing a presentation from one slide to the next slide.
Oh my God. Perfect use case.
Yeah.
I do
And so,
too, by the way. Yeah.
well, it is one of the things. So I will create my slideshow. I create my speaker document, and then I'll go in and I'll say, help me do the transitions between slides. And it
Mhm.
helps me so much with that. And the other thing is, I want to make sure that it's engaging and so that I'm asking those questions. And I've always written in my questions very intentionally on
Mm-hmm.
my, like, because I have to have that trigger or I'll just talk. And so those are things that it helps me with, and so when we talk about moving our game, and that's true for fundraising, like, what is that thing that you're really hesitant about? It's the one thing you always struggle with. Is it the closing? Is it the actual ask? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's that transition to get to the ask. Like, those are great points that you can utilize AI for, to be able to say, okay, this is what I usually do when I'm with the donor, but I feel like I need help with.
Yes. Yeah. And so it brings us a different way to kind of calculate our energy. So I've been able to go from, you think about, is it important or is it urgent? Is it, which combination of important and urgent are things? And we overlay that with, stuff like, are we a morning person? Are we a night person? Are we a middle of the day person? Think about, are we analytical? Are we creative? All these things. But what AI has enabled me to do that kind of transcends all of those issues is it allows me to save my best, most immaculate energy for the things that only I can do.
Yeah.
That discipline, that unlock is miraculous. So now because I could bang my head against the desk forever with transition sentences from slides. If I can say, here's my dope, like this is going to knock everybody's socks off. This is a fantastic presentation. I just need the words for when I'm flipping the page. What are those?
Yes.
Right? Because you and I both know they don't need to be like, they're not like crowd stoppers. It's just patter. It's just, parlaying it into the next idea. To not have to do that task, to save my energy so that when I'm actually doing a double black diamond task that matters, I have my energy about me versus having it dwindled away doing stuff that I can ask AI to do.
Yes. Yes. I love that. So that you can always be on your A game when you need to be.
When
Right?
you need to. And then you start to get a sense of, wow, what is it like when you have that reservoir of energy for the things that you enjoy and that only you can do? It's really special. It's a different way to live your one precious life.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. We've got to transition. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure that we're going to be over time on this
Sorry.
one. No, it's been a
Okay.
phenomenal conversation. I am so grateful. Tell our listeners where they can find you.
Okay. So everybody, we launched an organization called She Leads AI. And what our mission is to unite accomplished women to advance AI for global prosperity. In that organization, which is sheleadsai.ai, we have an academy. So we do AI education specifically. We help women learn how to lead in AI. This could be to repot yourself, start an AI consultancy. It could be so that you become the AI go-to person in your organization. Lots of use cases for leading in AI. We also have a consulting agency. So we encourage people in the nonprofit sector or small and medium-sized businesses who serve the nonprofit sector to reach out to us. We can help you with your AI training, your AI governance, your AI implementation. And we also have a community where women who are learning AI, even women who are have been in the game for 10 years, it doesn't matter. We all hang out together. We learn from each other. We have endless training events. We're on Mighty Networks 24/7. So it's a big deal. And we spend most of our personal capital in policy and advocacy around ethical AI governance out there in the world. So join us to be part of the movement. Join us for a course. Join our community. We would love to have anyone anywhere on their AI journey.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And our last question is always, what's one piece of advice that you can give our nonprofit listeners? And I feel like you've given so much already, but
I
one
have
quick
one.
piece. Awesome.
The piece that I want to share is that you are a gift to the nonprofit sector on loan to your current employer. You are a gift on loan to your current employer. No matter what you do, protect your energy because you are needed. The whole sector needs you. And you are talented and you can write your ticket. You can go anywhere. You can do anything. So know that you are a gift.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so, so much for sharing with us today. And to our listeners, I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope that you tune in again next week. And I look forward to having more conversations. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Nonprofit 411. I hope our discussion with nonprofit professionals and experts gave you actionable ideas to take your fundraising efforts to the next level. At Nonprofit 411, I partner with leaders like you to develop strategies and guide you through implementation. Visit nonprofit411.org to learn more, and let's take the first step together. See you next time.